when we started our startup journey, my co-founder Dash and I, we were a completely different business. When Upfront invested in us, we were a group dining app where we brought people together at restaurants throughout the city to meet, network, date, etc. And it was a great idea in theory because it's just a low pressure way to meet new people. But in reality, there are so many friction points to that kind of marketplace. Imagine if you're vegan, the menu doesn't have vegan options. You don't know if you're going to like anyone. It's all guys, it's all girls. What if you're the only one that shows up? What if the restaurant's too far? What if I'm doing something that day? So there were just too many friction points to actually making that work. Now, a lot of people actually still message me asking my lessons on Grow With Us. And I try to help them. I'm like, hopefully this is solved one day. We can bring people together in a low fashion way. But like, it was honestly very tough. So this was back in 2012 when Upfront invested, and we had to pivot because it just was not gaining traction. At that time, my co-founder, who's a massive sneaker enthusiast, his first pair of shoes ever was the Jordan 5 Breaks when he was 10 years old, or his first pair of Jordans ever. And they retroed, Nike does this thing where they re-release their retro shoes. So 23 years later, they retroed, this was 2014, 2013, and he had to have them. So he went on eBay, the largest sneaker marketplace at the time, bought these pair of shoes. He got them, was so upset, they turned out to be fake. He kept complaining to me, and we were just like, how come in this day and age, we're spending $300 on a pair of shoes and we still have to worry because we look fake? So since we were pivoting anyway, we were just like, hey, why don't we build a marketplace based on trust, safety, and authenticity? And that's what we did.
Yeah. So how was the conversation with your investors? Like, oh, we had this group, restaurant eating app, and then we're gonna do sneakers. Like, that's a massive pivot. That must be God. So.
You know what's crazy? So it wasn't a pivot from Grow With Us right to Go. We pivoted and pivoted again and pivoted again and pivoted again. So there was a lot of, honestly, lost confidence in us as operators. Some of our investors wanted us to get Apple hired, some of us wanted to return the money, some of them wanted us to return the money, and I don't know if we were stubborn or stupid or whatever, we were just like, no, we're gonna figure it out, So when we told them that we were gonna pivot into sneakers, and I asked a bunch of our big investors, like, hey, we're gonna do this massive pivot into sneakers, if you guys want the money back, you guys go, you can have it, it's gonna be pennies on the dollar, but whatever. And thankfully, every single investor was like, you know what, at this stage, it's worth more to you than it is to us, so just keep it. Do it. It was a lost cause.
We do that a lot.
So good for them and us that they stayed on, but it was not easy. The one thing though, Greg, our partner at Upfront, he used to work at eBay, and he saw that the sneaker market was actually growing, because he was like, kids don't collect trading cards anymore, they don't collect a lot of things, but he was like, the sneaker market is actually growing, so he believed in us, and so.
So how does Go actually work?
Because we are a marketplace based on trust and safety, anytime you buy something on Go, the seller actually ships it to one of our facilities. We have about 12 throughout the world now, where our authenticators look at every single sneaker, they authenticate it, and they quality check it, because even if you buy something that's supposed to be new in condition, there might be a scratch on it, there might be a scuff, so we check for all those things for condition and authenticity before we repackage it and send it to the buyer. That way the buyer gets just a retail-like experience, and Go deals with all the messy marketplace issues.
In regards to the authentication process, I saw firsthand the lengths your team goes through. I mean, literally, I saw someone smelling a shoe. All they do is smell shoes. They actually see if it comes from a certain warehouse because a certain factory hasn't smelled. So you talk about just how in-depth that process is.
Yeah, I mean, last year we found over $72 million, or we prevented $72 million of fakes going through our system. So it's a big deal. I mean, Nike's the most counterfeit brand in the world, and you talk about smelling, it's kind of like that new car smell where you're just used to that one smell, and Nike just has the same glue, the same material that they always use. So when you smell something from a fake factory, they use like different synthetics, they use different materials, you can instantly tell if something is off, and our authenticator, it's a big part of the training. I mean, obviously, touch, feel, look, etc., but then smell is a big component of that authentication process.
I don't want to know that interview process. Tell us, what's the most expensive sneaker right now on Go? And how much?
I mean, we have a ton. I mean, we have like the Nike Mags that go for 50 to 60 grand. We have the Undefeated 4s, which are the very first collaboration Jordan did with the brand. I mean, that now collaborations are all over the place. We're Labo, all these brands, but the undefeated Jordan collab was the first one that goes for 50-ish grand. Travis Scott actually came by to fly to New York one day and bought a pair, so.
Now talk about the conversations you've had, I'm sure, with many VCs, and also I'm sure friends and family, who I'm sure said, sneakers, that's a super niche company, it's a super niche marketplace. Like, if you have the opportunity to sell this for a couple $1 million, just dump it. I mean, how did you really have the resilience to believe in your passion and go on and embark on building what's now several hundred million, even bigger company?
You know, what's funny is that, so Kobe used to work at Excel, and every single fundraise we've had, it's been tough because every single investor is worried about the TAM. They're just like, this is a small market. Excel passed on us on our Series A, just so you know.
Well, it's funny, I still remember prior to that partner meeting, someone looked at me and was like, sneakers, really? I was like, Kobe, how much do those cost? I felt embarrassed, I didn't answer the question. I was like, oh, that's kind of weird.
So yeah, I mean, it was very hard raising our Series A round because very few investors understood the market. During our Series B, when Excel came into our round, it was probably the easiest round I ever did because everyone saw this, started to see the traction, right? But even to this day, I mean, we've raised almost $200 million now. We raised our Series D a little over a year ago. To this day, investors still worry about TAM. And even a year ago when I was fundraising, they were just like, is this a thing? Do people really buy sneakers over retail price? Like, why would anyone do that, right? And these are sophisticated investors running billions of dollars. And so you just have to be resilient. You have to just keep grinding it out. And you just have to tell the story and explain why this phenomenon just increases. I mean, you know, when I was a kid going to high school, we'd wear the same dirty pair of sneakers every single day, it'd be okay. Now, every kid has to rock a different pair of sneakers to school because it's an expression of yourself.
And how has it also invaded Silicon Valley? You see the likes of Mark Benioff, like crazy sneakerhead. Talk about the phenomenon that is sneakers from just kids to the Silicon Valley elite.
Actually, I have a funny story about that. So we launched GOAT in 2015. Early in 2016, we still didn't have much traction yet, but we started seeing these massive purchases, like $3,000, $1,000, and instantly we're like, oh, it's fraud. It has to be fraud because who's buying these things? But my co-founder, who was like the only fraud, or he was like our fraud expert at the time, he looked at the emails and it was Jack at Twitter.com, Adam at Twitter.com, so Jack Dorsey, of course, and then Adam Bain, who was the CEO back then. And we were just like, oh, crazy, it'd be amazing if it was them, but we're scared that it was just fraudulent orders. So I emailed them just as a fraud check, and I was like, hey, we're big fans, thanks for ordering, please let us know if you need anything. And so Adam reached out to us to say, hey, thanks so much, I'm actually looking for this pair of Yeezys that you don't have on your site. Would love it, just letting you know. And so, being scrappy entrepreneurs, we scoured the internet for these pairs of shoes. And we finally found it. We bought them, and we put it on our site, and I emailed Adam back to say, hey Adam, a seller magically put these shoes for you. He instantly bought them, and he was like, thanks so much. Next time you're in SF, come to Twitter, we'd love to hang out. And magically, we had a flight the next week. We were just like, oh, we just so happen to be going up to SF next week. We can hand deliver your shoes to you, Adam. And so we flew up, we hung out with them, it was great. And because of that, he's now one of our board members, and he's been amazing. So, but yeah, you got to do some of those things when you're small and scrappy, right? Just to figure it out. But we started to just realize that, you know, tech leaders and entrepreneurs, I mean, we're all disruptors here, right? We want to be individualistic. We want to be unique. I think, you know, when you're wearing dress shoes, you can pick brown or black, but sneakers are, like I was saying earlier, a true expression of yourself. And I think it really speaks to the Silicon Valley crowd, where it's like, I can be unique. I can have my own style and wear sneakers.
Yeah. Now, can you talk a little bit about future growth and how, as you're thinking about expanding market size, expanding the company, you made the decision to go into another category being apparel. Like, how is that process of making that decision? And talk to us a little bit about what you're doing there.
Well, it turns out you can't just wear sneakers out onto the street. You gotta actually wear clothing as well. So it was a very natural completion of the story. We dressed people in sneakers. We actually really worked hard on building our brand, so we built brand trust with the consumer. And with that, you know, they really wanted to have us curate the whole outfit, right? Because, you know, it's like Kobe, you bought those pair of Jordan 1s on GOAT. These are the apparel items that'll look good with those Jordan 1s. So it's like just the completion of the story that we think. And it's not a stretch. It's not like we're trying to be this crazy verticalized marketplace. We call ourselves a global platform for style. And that style component is we just want to make people look and feel good.
Yeah. And then global, you've now expanded into Asia and Europe. Talk about that decision and also the complexities that I'm sure you face with regards to extending your brand overseas.
So this was kind of the end of 2018, early 2019, China was already our biggest international market, second to the US in terms of our sales. And what we were seeing, we didn't localize anything at that point. What we were seeing was that we saw videos on the Chinese versions of YouTube telling people how to purchase on GOAT. So there would be just videos of this is the buy button, this is what you click, this is where you enter your credit card details. And we were just like, wow, it's our biggest international country, even though they have to jump through 10 hoops to kind of transact with us. So we were just like, all right, let's make sure. So we actually went into the market. We interviewed a whole bunch of people. We interviewed the GMs of Uber China, of Airbnb China, WeWork China, etc. And so that we could understand how to, China is of course a difficult market for Westerners. And we realized if you competed in a domestic marketplace within China, you get killed because the Chinese upstarts can just outrun you, outwork you all day long. The reason why we knew GOAT had a shot was because of the cross-border aspect. We saw that we were a Western brand. I mean, the Chinese consumer is very scared of fakes because a lot of fakes are generated from there, so they want to trust the Western brand. We are bringing Western culture into China. And there's actually a lot of sizing mismatches where, and preferences. I mean, in China, for instance, they prefer the Jordan mids a lot of times versus the Jordan highs. And of course, sizing, a lot of the smaller sizes go into China versus a lot of the bigger sizes sell in the Western world. So we saw that we had an opportunity. So we started going, what we did was we localized language, we localized currency, and we created a WeChat mini program because WeChat's such an important part of the Chinese ecosystem. So we went full in. We have a team of about 35 or 40 people in Shanghai right now to service that market. So that's on the demand side. And of course, on the supply side, we know sneakers are a worldwide market, so we have a facility, a distribution center in Hong Kong. We just opened one in the UK. And we've just seen that when you have a local presence, it reduces costs for sellers to sell into GOAT because now they can just ship locally to the local distribution center. And just in a month, the UK sales have 4x just because we have the distribution.
Okay. Let's talk a little about competition. You got one very large competitor with StockX. You have a number of small upstarts that are nipping at your heels. How do you stay ahead? What do you do to compete? How do you potentially leverage brand as your weapon to really just capitalize on customer affinity and loyalty?
Can't speak about the competitors, but in terms of our vision and what we think, some of the other guys, they're transactional marketplaces. It's about making that sale and that transaction and nothing else, right? And it doesn't create good long-term brand value or long-term customer value. Versus us, we are trying to create a brand. I mean, we think very long-term. I mean, we have this whole augmented reality feature in our app, and a lot of times we are showcasing product that isn't even for sale. We showcase kind of unreleased fragment Jordan 1s, or we even, sometimes, we'll put like the Travis Scott Jordan 1s, $3,000. We know that most kids can't afford a $3,000 pair of shoes, but we do it so that we can generate the next generation of sneakerheads. You might not care about sneakers now, but if you're playing with it in AR, doing the try-on feature, maybe in the future you're like, hey, when I do have money, I was nostalgic about that pair of shoes when I was a kid playing around with it, so now I'm going to transact because I have money, right? We've built an aspirational brand, and people tell us, this is something that is counterintuitive. People think that GOAT is only for limited edition sneakers, but 40% of our sales are actually under retail price, because now we're just the best place to buy sneakers, period, regardless of if it's kind of super expensive, $2,000, or it's $50. And we really think it's because we've built an aspirational brand. I mean, think about, I equate it to walking to a Tiffany store. Very few people buy the $100,000 diamond encrusted necklace, but you want to say you shopped at Tiffany, you want to get the blue box, so you buy the $100 bracelet and you walk out, right? It's the same with GOAT, where you experience the Travis Scotts in the augmented reality, but you walk out with the $150 pair that looks like the Travis Scotts because you want to say you bought on GOAT. And that's the long-term brand value that we're creating, so that people can have affinity towards the brand. And we've been seeing it with LTVs going up, with a lot of brands actually wanting to partner with us because they see ourselves as a marketing channel, not just a transactional marketplace.
Right. And then talk a little bit about how also you're helping democratize the whole industry of just sellers being able to compete with traditional retailers. It goes enabling those folks to leverage the marketplace to create their own businesses. Can you talk to us a little about that initiative?
You know what's crazy about traditional retailers? You walk into a footwear store, there's maybe like 200 unique styles on the wall, and it's only like this year's styles and stuff that hasn't sold out. So it's kind of the stuff that's left over, not the cool stuff, right? Yeah. And so on GOAT, we have over 60,000 unique styles that you can choose from, and it gives people so much access to the shoe. For the democratizing piece, if you go on eBay right now and you type in these pair of Union Jordan 1s, size 10, you might see 100 different listings. And you have to sift through every single listing, look at every seller's star rating, every seller's photo set. It might take you 2 hours to buy a pair of shoes. On GOAT, we consolidate everything into one SKU page, and sellers compete against each other for that SKU page. So sellers don't have to build up a reputation anymore. The guy who buys one pair of shoes can compete against the guy who is a massive power seller, because it's just, buyers just care about price and what they want to buy, right? And so we've really democratized it because GOAT deals with all that other stuff, and we've really helped the smaller, like, I love talking to parents because they're always like, my kid's like a mini entrepreneur now because they know they learn how to sell and buy on GOAT and like make money for themselves.
It's very cool. We have a little bit over a minute left. Any parting words of wisdom you have for the startup grind community here today?
I've made a lot of mistakes. I think, so in terms of pivoting, I mean, stuff happens, right? The mistake we made from pivoting from Grub With Us to the next idea well before GOAT was the fact that we were like, hey, we have all this IP from Grub With Us, all this restaurant data. We weren't passionate about the idea that we were pivoting into, but we were like, hey, to kind of save face and to like show our investors we're still in the same kind of general vicinity, let's pivot into this thing. And it was just not good because none of us were passionate about it. We were just building it for building something sake. So I would say, if you're in that predicament, just have a hard reset and say, what I'm doing next, what I want to spend the next 10 years of my life doing.
Great, awesome. Thank you for sharing the story, everyone.
Thanks, Toby.
Applause for